Hello, conscious investor, and welcome back. I'm your host, Julie Hawley. For over 4 years, I've paired my background in real estate investing, education, and coaching to create powerful content for you each week. This podcast is where we take a holistic approach to investing by focusing on 3 ingredients to a life of personal freedom: health, mindset, and wealth. We'll talk about everything from passive investing through syndication and how to use your retirement accounts to boost your investing, to mineral balancing and gut-brain health, and into topics that cultivate your inner strength and resilience so you can thrive regardless of any of life's current events. And yes, those are all episodes currently available and linked in the show notes below. Join me each Monday for a mindset episode and later in the week for an interview with expert investors and health professionals so that you can experience your greatest health, strongest mindset, and build the wisest wealth. Mandy, I am so thrilled to have you back again, and guesting again. That doesn't happen often on the show. So welcome back to The Conscious Investor.
I am so incredibly excited, Julie, for 100 reasons. And thank you for the chance to be on again.
You know, I think if I were to open up my desk drawer and dig around for just a brief moment, I might find a best friend half from like years ago after we recorded our podcast and we ended up outside because my internet was trash and we've got chickens in the background. I'm pretty sure that I sent like we're going to do this best friends thing because this is hilarious. So it was just a fun way to wrap up such a fun conversation. So conscious investment. So if you want to see growth and development in humans, go back, listen to the previous episode, which was probably 3 years ago with Mandy and I, because it's fantastic. But Mandy, we've got to dive into the biggest question of all because life has changed a lot. So now here in 2024, what do you do and how did you get started?
Love it. Julie, I am currently in this really cool situation where multifamily apartment investing, I bought stuff that I own by myself and stuff that I own with just a few partners that I was able to buy my way out of my W-2 in 2021 and have had the space to be able to just lean into stuff that feels awesome. A book that you and I might have talked about is called The Surrender Experiment, which has really informed so much of my choices of what's next and where do I want to put my energy. And where I'm putting my energy now is largely with GoBundance Women, this mastermind that I joined as a member that I now have an opportunity to serve in leadership. And because of things I've learned from people who are light years ahead of me in their investment journeys, I've acquired a couple businesses because I think businesses uh, make you go further faster in terms of earnings and net worth than even real estate investment. So that is where I'm at now.
So much there that we could go down. I feel you, conscious investor, because it's like, which path do we start with? So we're going to say this: we don't have to. We have time on our hands, so or on our side. So we're going to start with. I want to start with the businesses. I really want to go into GoBundance. Can you see I am conflicted, but I want to ask you about businesses. I feel like that's the new sexy thing out there, and people are like gravitating. We're seeing, Cody Sanchez is like, oh my gosh, we're gonna be the next Cody, and we have a mutual friend. She's crushing it with the business that she just bought, and it is something that, in fact, somebody told her. I'm going to pass this along. Commented on a LinkedIn post she had recently, and they said, "Oh, look at all the people from multifamily are now transitioning shiny object syndrome over to businesses." And we're thinking, businesses take a long time to acquire. Like there's a different process, and whatever. Investors invest. That's the whole purpose behind it. So tell us like a little bit about the addition, and I also see it as an addition into one's portfolio. Like, how did you decide to add businesses into your investment portfolio, and what are you loving most about it?
Sure. I mean, my end game will always be apartment buildings on agency debt that I own by myself.
Yeah.
However, with the incredibly fast tick up in interest rates, they weren't penciling for many years. And what I've chosen to do is rather than sit on my hands, because I'm not a sit on your hands kind of girl, I looked at the people who are light years ahead of me. So one of my favorite calls in GoBundance is we look at people who make it to $10 million net worth, $100 million net worth, and we dissect what got them there. right?
Mhm.
And one of the things that I saw time and time again is that you can kind of white knuckle it and get to maybe a $10 million net worth in real estate. But the people who got there further faster, the people who get to $200 million net worth, they get there with a business interest. And when I lean back and look at the why, if I'm going to buy an apartment building at a four cap, which was happening a lot, the math on it,
Mhm.
just zoom out, its value is NOI over cap. So at a four cap, to get that dollar of NOI, I need to pay $25. If I'm going to buy, let's say, a car wash, it costs me 3x EBITDA. So it costs me $3 for a dollar of that cash flow. And I understand math isn't perfect, but it's rough ideas. So I'm buying the dollar of cash flow for cheaper, and I have an opportunity to, if I can see a path to doubling year over year top line revenue on the car wash for 5 years straight. Can you double year over year top line revenue of your apartment building with and keep anybody renting or abide by all the laws? You absolutely cannot. So I think of the business as my engine for cash flow, and once I have a big chunk of capital to take chips off the table, I put those into those 50-ish unit small multi.
That's so I love that because it's taking some it's like and a lot of people do this where they're looking to how can I generate some liquid cash so that I can spin that off and put it into something that's going to be a slow growth over here and diversify but keep I love it. I love this plan. What are some of the challenges that you've faced in the business process? Cuz
It's a
hey, new
very
asset class, new challenges.
Yeah. And the thing that I was talking about, I forget on what panel, but every single time I buy into something new for at least 6 months, I'm like, oh my God, what did I do?
Yeah,
Was this the
totally.
right choice? I think I screwed up. Every single time I'm super informed, I dive in, and it's so many new things to figure out. And the beauty of apartment investing is, if you buy something big enough to have a property manager's eyes on it 24/7, 365, your involvement on a day-to-day basis reduces so significantly that you could
Yes.
potentially call it passive, right? And that is beautiful. However, if you are going to go after that additional cash flow, there are a lot of moving parts. There are a lot of things to know. The amount of things that I know about pumps and hoses and chemicals that I didn't anticipate knowing a year ago before acquiring this business. There are a lot more moving parts and a lot more systems and processes to have in place to run something well than just hiring a property manager. So, doing your homework beforehand is absolutely something that is incredibly important when buying a business.
I love it. You're such an ambitious, like, let me jump in kind of woman. So I'm like, it's not a surprise at all. You're like, this works. Let's go.
I love to make what I think is a little bet. And then I know I learn best by screwing up and failing forward. So if I make a bet that's small enough, then I can learn those lessons like I did in multifamily about a fourplex. Like I don't believe that the right path is to buy a 400 unit for your very first transaction. I think you buy a fourplex and screw up with fourplex problems and then lean into growth, right? So that's what I've chosen to do on the business front as well.
I love that. Do you have a business like another? I mean, you have a car wash, and it's been fun to see you over on social media. Subconscious investor, go follow Mandy on social media. She's so much fun to follow. Like your content's fun and it's real. It's not this, fluffy, and you just have insightful things that you share. It's just, I love your content. So go follow her on the socials because you'll be glad that you did. Are you going to acquire more other types of businesses besides, now that you understand how car washes work? Are you going to just kind of go in the car wash zone for a little bit or
So I also have a motel, which I made
okay.
a bunch of friends that were killing it in short-term rentals, and the amount of revenue you can generate in an overnight stay is very different from a long-term stay, right? So I now have an opportunity to buy that partner out of that motel and am getting the right operator in place so that we can make that what it should be. One thing I'll say though is I've noticed about myself is I like to do a number of different things, and I've made some friends through different organizations. Actually, one woman that if you're not following her, you should. Her name is Lisa Song Sutton. She and I had a chance to meet at an event in Costa Rica and spent some time together. And this girl, she owns a brokerage and a cupcake company and a huge portfolio and mailbox stores. I'm like, how the crap do you keep all of this straight? Because I'm doing a motel and a car wash in my portfolio, and I feel like my head is spinning. And the lesson I learned from her at that event was, have an operator at the top of the totem pole so that you're, kind of coaching them up rather than trying to do all of the things yourself. So 2024 has been the year of the operator for your friend Mandy.
That's amazing, especially just you've got exciting things happening in your personal life. So I'm like, you have more time to just live and enjoy, which is really awesome.
It's
I,
I mean, it's a constant evolution. It's totally a process, and not all of it is in place, but I see a clear direction of working above things. And on the car wash front, a thing I've learned from small multis is, if you own a sixplex, the management of that is you go to Joe for leasing and Steve for rehab and Susie for talking to tenants. Well, it's a cluster to deal with a management structure when stuff is small, but when you have enough scale, like if you buy a 50 unit property, you might not, like the gurus tell you, afford someone full time at like a 100 unit property would afford. But if you have a 50 unit property, you might not get Susan on site Monday through Friday, but you get her Monday, Wednesday, Friday, you know? So having enough scale to have somebody's eyes on that prize, that operator, is really key. So there will be scale in our future. We're not at the point yet that we have a full book of SOPs that make complete sense, but we will be acquiring with logistical proximity to be able to have that full-time operator in place.
that makes so much sense. Housing everything like building out. We're acquiring assisted living communities, and it is centralized and it is scaling out, and
Mm-hmm.
there's some intentionality to that for sure.
That is absolutely a business too, you know?
Oh,
So it's a completely
big
different
time.
animal. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, yes. Not meant for the faint of heart and not meant for all people, because I mean, like, you're dealing with such a precious demographic. I just love it. So I'm like, no, you need the right people, running the show, operating it, and making sure that these lives are really being nurtured and cared for. It's so important.
You are the perfect person to be doing that stuff too. Like not everybody's heart is in it in the way that yours is. So
They're
I've never gotten to tell you or give you the verbal high five that I
Oh,
think
thank
that this is a
you.
great fit for you. Yeah.
Thank you. I love it. It is my jam. Just give me my multifamily and my assisted living, my partnerships right there. Let's just go deep. Let's go. It's fun. You and I know how important it is to have strong partners. So,
Mhm.
conscious investor, go back, listen to our previous recording from years ago. You'll get the story on how bad partnerships can affect your life, and it's not fun. I clearly remember that part of our conversation. So let's shift the scope a little bit, because you're doing something that's really close to both of our hearts. All of this, we investing is our heartbeat. Like, but we also love just being around other powerful women, powerful people. And you and I've both like, hey, my guys, like, you guys are awesome. We love you, we value you, we appreciate you. And then there's this moment where our guys have their little spaces and they get to go and they do their thing, and now you are at the helm of of the ship, just like really creating a powerful opportunity for ambitious women like us who really want to go share this experience. So before I start feeding into my concept of everything that you do, why don't you tell us about GoBundance, tell us about GoBundance Women, your vision, who's there, what do you want to see?
Oh, so I so completely we are completely on the same page that you're given two arms for a reason. That's one thing I say a lot. One to pull yourself up, but another to pull other people up with you. And especially growing up in multifamily, I feel like I grew up with you in multifamily. That there's so many bros, there's so many, right? But there's something really special about getting to connect about the human condition with someone who's like you. So I actually learned of GoBundance in 2017 from a guy at a multifamily thing. Weird, right? That was talking about that I just joined this thing and yes, it's about financial freedom, but it's about so much more than that. Are you giving back in a way that feels awesome? Are you connected in your relationships? What is your health like? And I'm like, oh my God, these are my people. How do I join? And there wasn't yet a women's division. right? So in 2020, when the women's division launched, I joined as a member because I wanted an opportunity to talk about what it feels like to be the female breadwinner, to talk about what it feels like to dive into my dreams and fear failing my son as his mother. That is not a conversation that makes sense with bros in the room, and it wouldn't be the reciprocal is true as well. So I believe in the hearts of the guys who started the men's division. It was that kind of fraternity where they had that ability to go deep and vulnerable on the stuff that matters men to men. And then they looked up many years later and realized, oh my, we're not serving women. So they
Mm.
decided at the end of 2022 that they wanted to allow it an opportunity to be for women by women. And that's when three of us stepped up and leaned into leadership. And since then, I've been serving as one of the women who leads GoBundance Women. So it's been really neat to see the tweaks that we wanted to have as members, and we're getting to execute them now. And really crossing over with the men's side where it makes sense, and really staying just women and just men where that. So it's been a really really fun journey so far.
That's and one more clarification because there's events that are for family as well, correct? Like GoBundance Family.
Yep. So fam abundance. If a woman is
Mhm.
a member of GoBundance Women or a man is a member of the GoBundance Elite men's side, then you can attend what we call fam abundance, and you bring your family, and there's stuff teaching your kids about money and wealth, and to have my kids next to other crazy entrepreneur brain people, because how if you're an entrepreneur you feel crazy in your daily life with the people,
Mhm.
your family of origin usually, that the chance to show your kids that we are not crazy, and we are chasing our dreams, that feels really cool as well.
It's absolutely remarkable, and I think it's so important. This is one reason my kids travel, to
Mhm.
1 or 2 events with me each year. Just be around other people, and we have friends that have their kids that will come along sometimes. So it's just interesting to see like this whole world exists. It doesn't look like, there's more than your small town life. Like, go see. There are lots of people thinking in these massively big capacities and such.
Mhm.
So, what are some of the? What's I'm curious about the vision that the three of you have for GoBundance Women. Who would be an ideal? Like if someone's listening, how would they know that like this is where they want to be?
Yeah.
And go plan.
So the kind of the mission statement is we are a tribe of healthy, wealthy, generous women who choose to lead epic lives. So the right person has, we're the tribe of millionaires. So a net worth of $1 million or accredited investor status would mean that you qualify, because the problems that you face as an investor or in your life, if you've kind of started to figure out the money stuff, you're an accredited investor. That's a different set of investment problems than if you're trying to make your first investment. We do have a group for the not yet millionaires called
Mhm.
Emerge. So we have a place for that. But if you have a net worth of $1 million and you want growth and you're hungry for that growth in all ways, in your health, in your connection, in your adventures. One thing I didn't realize, Julie, until I was doing we call it our Master Abundance Playbook. We look at the pillars that we stand for, and we kind of rate ourselves. Like, how are we doing this quarter? And I realized, oh, adventure. Like, I'm not, that would be fun. Like, I'm so head down on like making my connection feel good and making my financial freedom stuff work that I hadn't even thought of connection or the adventure stuff. And I went that quarter and bought an RV. That is when we are bought the RV, and that is the why behind we bought the RV, to go on adventures with the family and make those memories. So culturally, we spend time looking at the stuff that matters to us and planning our lives. Because I would argue most people spend more time planning Thanksgiving dinner than they do planning their own dang lives. So we culturally kind of peer pressure you into doing that type of.
Is there any part of it where people would be like, so I just recently came across an organization, and I'm not going to talk in depth about it, but I mean, like for the first 30 or 90 days, it was a long time. Like the group makes your decisions for your workout, for your nutrition, and I was like, I don't know that I can commit to that. That's a pretty intense thing, right? So like, is there anything that you have found transitioning on the vulnerability scale? Now, you and I, we're into vulnerability. So I like that. That's probably not going to be the part that is a little like uncomfortable for you. But is there anything where people will sometimes kind of go like, "Oh, I don't know that I want to have that conversation or if I'm prepared for that or."
Well, I mean, this master abundance playbook, there is like radical transparency. Like I write
Mhm.
down that my weight is 169 pounds and where I want it to end up, and this like kind of cultural, we don't talk like, no, let me lead by example. Then I'm going to tell you this thing that should be embarrassing. And it's just data. And it's the exact same with net worth. That if what you want to do is improve something, the more I say this a lot too, especially with the people I get to coach in small multis, that the more truth you put to a problem, the easier it is to solve the problem. So if you're not committed to a level of transparency with people and especially yourself, you're not going to get the results that you want. So you first got to apply the truth. And sometimes that feels like you're a little bit naked. And that can be kind of scary until you see the culture of that we're all doing this, we're all in it together, we're all here to lift each other up.
Like full like we know conscious investor, Mandy knows me well enough to know like I don't mind the vulnerability, but that always because the cultural norm is you don't talk about religion, politics, and you certainly don't ask people about like, oh, how much money's in the bank account? Oh, what'd you spend that on? Oh, you have debt? Oh, you're only going to make this much? Why wouldn't you make that much? Like there is so much about that that can feel so raw and vulnerable where people,
Hmm.
so I love that there's a place where it's the norm. Like
Mm.
this is data.
Oh, it's exactly it. And sometimes if you find yourself in a more successful kind of situation based off of the decisions you've made in your life than your family or of origin or your where you grew up, it can be embarrassing to say, "Hey, Julie, I bought a $5 million property yesterday." Because someone
Mhm.
might say in that family of origin, "Oh, must be nice." Well,
Yeah.
no, I worked so hard on this. I want a high
Yes.
five. I don't want to, it must be nice. And what you
Mhm.
get if you are in the right rooms is a high five and not like a judgment in the wrong direction.
I absolutely love that, and there's so much truth to that. In conscious investor, maybe you don't feel that truth on the financial side, but maybe you've gone through that process of doing deep inner work, and so now you're making some bold choices, or maybe you've gone through that process of saying no to certain things in your nutrition so that you can say yes to the health and fitness that you want, right? And now people look at you like, "Oh, well, who do you think you are?" Granola eating, and so yeah, there's always that like that pushback when we become that mirror for the people around us and they don't like what they're seeing. It's like, well, I've done the hard work. Like I want to be around people that want to celebrate with me. Let's
Yeah.
go.
Yeah. The where I grew up is so near and dear to my heart, and I love getting to go home. And I want to make friends that are my future, in addition to my friends that have built my past. And that's
Mhm.
what I get a chance to do when I'm in rooms with like this Lisa Song Sutton. And we get to spend a weekend with Cody Sanchez in October. So just being around women who, I think sometimes I'm playing chess and then I get around them and I realize I'm just playing checkers. You know what I mean?
Uh-huh. Oh yeah. Yeah. I feel that way around you all the time. I just like, "Hey!" It's so exciting. It's just absolutely exciting, just to see, how you've evolved and the daring the what appear to be like just no, I'm going for this. I bet on me. And to have that
Mm.
confidence to say like, I know I can do this. It might be scary, but I'm going to do it anyway. But
Yeah,
I
you
know I
do
can
it
do
scared.
this.
Yeah, I was actually on a panel at a women's event, and we were talking about decision making process, and the difference between someone who is light years ahead of you and where you're at is just the fact that they did it scared, that
Yeah.
they're still unsure. That this idea of like you've got to mitigate the risk. And I when I was first doing a larger multi, that first 53 unit that I bought versus the fours and the sixes and the tens, I got real comfortable with. That if I felt like I was gonna like be homeless and penniless and under a bridge with my son, like I was certain of it. And then I just realized I was reading Stoic philosophy at the time, like what is the actual worst case scenario? That's not the worst case scenario, Mandy. You've got tons of savings. You're gonna have some money coming in. You can always go get another job. if you want. So what is the
Mhm.
decision making process, and understand that they're, just doing it scared.
I think that doing it scared. No, what do you think? Like my position is sometimes we have to do that personal, that inner work to get to the point where we can do it scared. Um, I've done so much inner work just to build some infrastructure to where it's like it's gonna be okay. I'm at this
Mhm.
point now where it's like it's gonna all of it's gonna be okay.
Mhm.
Like think about the
Well,
past. So what have you done or did you just have that? Or like, did you just have that? Or did you build up some? And I think I'm like, we know each other. So I'm like, maybe I'm kind of leading with this question.
yeah, I am not someone who identifies as brave. That is not a thing that I've done, connecting the dots backwards. Like I could see how someone from the outside might say, "Ooh, that looks courageous." But like I do not identify as a brave human in any way. One thing that I have done is I've learned like, how do I think about that worst case scenario, actually put truth to it, like that's normally numbers, especially in this investing game. If you think about that worst case scenario and you put the numbers to it, then you can start to plan around that,
Mhm.
mitigating that risk. Like, how do you make sure that that risk doesn't happen? And then, if it feels like if you can get comfortable with the worst case scenario and how you would deal with it, it becomes so much easier to move forward into something. And I've also, a thing that like a little hack of my brain that I've done, mindset ninja, whatever, is if I need to do something, I treat it like an experiment. The idea of leaving my W 2 in 2021, it felt so final. It felt so serious and scary. And I just decided that I was going to treat it like a 12-month experiment. And let's circle back and see how it feels in 12 months. And if it feels awesome, keep going. If it doesn't feel awesome, then go find a job. So how do you remove the finality from a decision
Yeah.
in order to take that pressure off?
I absolutely love that. And so often we don't give ourselves that permission to even say like, it's not like I'm unemployable if I don't and that was actually part of our decision-making process when I left education the last time and probably for the last time, like, that's the plan. It's been years now. So, but all that to say it was, like, worst case scenario, I go back to education, like, okay, no big deal. Like, there's y I mean, hey, I'll go be a barista. Like, I don't know, worst case scenario, I can find a job. Like, if I need to find a job, we can do that. We're smart people. We're competent. Conscious of us, or you are too. So, so then do the thing that makes you scared and do it scared.
And know that you can trust your judgment. If you've not done reps, that all that to say, if you decide, oh, I want to buy a small multi building, oh, I'll just buy this one, like, and done no work to figure out the truth to these things, then the
Yeah.
likelihood of your failure is a lot higher than if you've done the work to learn to trust your own judgment, right? Like if you've
Yes.
made the right decisions and you've figured out how to mitigate risk, and maybe you're working with a coach that helps you figure out how to trust your own judgment. It all comes back
Right.
to you. It all comes back to, can I trust me? And that is, the hardest thing in this whole, human experience that we're in.
It is. Okay. So why would you say it's the hardest thing to trust ourselves? Like we're with ourselves 24/7. Is that why?
I feel like it all depends on, where you're at. And when you look at someone who's doing something you want to do, it seems so effortless and the path seems so obvious. And when you're like the one in the arena fighting the fight and bloody and sweaty, I think it's super common, like completely natural to question each step that you choose to take. It's a Steve Jobs quote that I rip off all the time, that the only way to connect the dots is by looking backwards.
Mhm.
So if you can develop, we talk about this in my house with the teenager, that, how do you figure out the your decision making process? Have you developed, like, if you've read the Ray Dalio book Principles, wonderful
Mhm.
book, incredible to see how a brilliant man thinks. But the biggest takeaway I had from that book is that I need to have a list of principles. I need to
Mhm.
decide when I'm unemotional
Mm.
how I'm going to decide the person I want to be. And it's actually, we do that for our family. What are our values? so that we know the filter to run something through before making a choice. So if you haven't decided your principles or your values, that will help you make decisions when decision making is hard.
That's so important. Someone else who does this on in a different way that I think is like very gentle is Michael Gervais, and I'm
Mm.
obsessed with his work right now. So he goes off of first principles, like the first rules. Like so, you need to understand what your first principles are for your life. His work is on FOPO, which I think you'll appreciate. Fear of people's opinion, like
Oh,
just as a rule. So he has a book that recently came out, but you're gonna love him. I'm not gonna spoil it. Conscious Investor. You've heard me talk so much about Michael Gervais over the last several months that I'm like, you're probably tired of hearing it. So, but check out his work, his podcast. Eloquent with words and gentle and just absolutely like mind bending, but it's so simple, and I kind of like it when it's like, how did you subtly just like do that? That was really interesting. That didn't
there's
feel painful.
elegance in simplicity. Actually, Einstein said that if you can't explain it simply, you don't understand it enough. Like I
Mm,
came from the cardiology world. I sold medical device sales. And there are so many med device reps who try to sound so smart by using all these complicated things. Like, no, like if you can just actually boil stuff down and understand it like a fourth grader would understand it,
yes,
that's when you actually know, you know?
that is when you know right there for sure. And when you start stumbling over your words, it's very clear. Like, okay, this person doesn't really know what the heck they're talking about. Oh my gosh. I want to
Absolutely.
dive into some of the personal development, and I love that you and I can run the spectrum on a conversation where we can talk about, hey, let's talk about investing. Okay, let's talk about like the peer group that we surround ourselves with, and let's talk about the inner work. What are some of the things like you've gone down the Tony Robbins rabbit hole and down some other things that have really impacted your life? And I love that about you. I'm curious, looking back over the last decade or so. You can go back as long as you want, whatever the time frame is, I don't care. But when you look back, um what do you think, looking back, connecting the dots like Steve Jobs
Mhm.
says, what is that? What do you think were some of the needle movers for you?
Mm,
And conscious investor, I'm asking Mandy this, and don't take this as, oh, that's going to be the same thing for me, because you're
mhm.
a different person. But it's really important to have role models to see, evolution of oneself.
Totally agree. Like my path is not the path for all of the people. However, there's probably a clue or two that might help you inform where you're going, right? But my
Mhm.
gateway drug was Tony Robbins, and
Okay.
I had watched all of his videos, I had read all of his books, I had done all of the things, and then I saw a billboard that some real estate wealth expo was coming to town in like 2018 or something, and the real good ticket was $500, and then you got a picture with Tony. I'm like, $500 for
That's
one
it.
day? That's stupid. I'm not doing it.
Okay.
Oh my god, I want to do it. Right? So I bought the $500 ticket, and I got to sit front row of like 10,000 people, and I got my picture with Tony. But he if you've done Tony Robbins stuff, Unleash the Power Within, or UPW as they call it, is the first, is kind of the shortest and kind of energy focused um, seminar that he does. Well, he did the first 4 hours of UPW at this thing. And at the very end, there was this meditation that was earth shattering to me. This idea that my answers are within me was mind blowing. And I just need to go deeper to figure that stuff out. Because at the end of this meditation, it felt magical. I knew exactly the hard decision I needed to make. And at that moment, $500 was too much for that ticket. I walked directly to the back and I bought the $2,000 UPW ticket because I knew I needed to invest in myself. I knew that
Mhm.
figuring me out was going to make for the very best possible life. And all of that fear that I had pent up in not, being the perfect little girl, this, the one who raised her hands and got straight A's and was a Division 1 athlete and did all of the things that she was supposed to do, like that was not fulfilling. I had a full on panic attack in a parking deck at a hospital because I knew the truth was not what I was living. And I needed to figure that out for myself so that I could feel what fulfillment actually looked like. So, end of the day,
Mm.
asking yourself the hard questions is the important part. And, if you spend money to go full immersive on stuff to ask yourself those questions when you're not trying to make 12 snacks for 3 kids and sign permission slips, that can be way easier. But that doesn't mean a book can't help you get there. Actually, a book that I just read from a woman I met in an event is called Boundary Boss. Terry,
Nice.
what was her last name? But anyway, so she's a therapist and she actually used to teach acting. So she's so funny, Julie. She knows like the comedy formula. It's great. So
And I
one
know
big,
you and I both love comedy, so that's
oh my
great.
God.
Like, yes.
Well, I was trained in comedy, so I thought like, oh my God, does she know she's following the rules? Well, I'm guessing she knows that she's following the rules to teach it. But the primary takeaway I had is, you think about boundaries. You hear it, you're like, oh no, I need to say no more often. Okay, yeah, I get it. But what are your boundaries with yourself? And doing like an actual like thought process, a thought experiment on what my boundaries are with myself and kind of how I got there. That is my current like epiphany that I'm obsessed.
Mm.
So, boundary box.
Okay, I love that, and that actually takes, like, the concept that I have in my own head, like, very full circle, because when I think about when we're not internally aligned and congruent, we can't trust ourselves. Like, we don't know how to trust that intuition because, well, you had that extra glass of wine when you said you weren't, and you slept in when you said you were going to get up, and so we start to doubt ourselves, right? Because we
Mhm.
don't have those clear. And I haven't read this book, so this is my own interpretation of all things right at this moment. Is like, but just like being able to trust ourselves and have that confidence to say, I can move forward with this. I can press play with this with confidence, and I'm not going to fall flat on my face because in these small things day to day, I make my bed. I put my dish in the dishwasher. I like these small insignificant things that we have within ourselves just remind us like, no, I have this. I'm capable of this.
I mean, are you keeping those promises to yourself? That's how you learn to
Yes.
trust a person who's not you. Like
Mhm.
if you make me 20 promises and you keep 6 of those promises, I'm going to learn you're not trustworthy. But if I'm
Mhm.
making myself promises and I'm not keeping those promises, I'm treating
Yeah.
myself like I don't matter. And I think especially women have so many things on their plate that the studies have shown that we do a disproportionate amount of housework, that we do a disproportionate amount of the childcare, that all of the stuff in this generation has, largely been of a female responsibility. And now we're breadwinners in a significant way. And now we're going to control more dollars collectively as men in this world very shortly. So, how do we learn to balance? How do we learn that it's okay to ask for help? Because we have so long been, just doing all of the things. Actually, so my business partner in GoBundance, one of the men who started the men's division, his name is David Osborne. He talked about on a call how he was lucky that he wasn't really good at a lot of stuff. So he had to start hiring. And that is why his growth went so far so fast. But if you are a woman that can, get the kids on the bus and make the dance uniform and sign the permission slip and grow a multi-million dollar business, you might think that doing it all is the path to all things when that is not necessarily the case. That is the path to burnout. How do you figure out where you can ask for help, how to ask for help, and how you can matter to you?
Oh gosh, so good. So good. Okay, I have to ask. I'm compelled. I just want to know: have you faced burnout since you left the medical device sales? All of that, right? Like, have you faced that burnout?
So actually, I in leaving my W-2, there was so much stuff in um, real estate that I wanted to do, like posts and education and outreach that I wouldn't do because I felt concerned that it would appear that my time was being split disproportionately between W-2 world and investing world. So as soon as I left, I there were so many things I wanted to do. So it was like I was starving and I went to like the all you can eat buffet for Chinese food. And then I got all of the things on my plate and I just kept saying yes and kept saying yes because there was all of these things that I wanted to do. And then I ended up like bloated with MSG and lo mein and opportunity. You know what I
Yes,
mean? So
totally.
this is actually kind of a cautionary tale of leaving your W 2 that I talked with yesterday. about that if you don't have a plan for what you're going to take on, it's easy to allow yourself to just continue to say yes because you get to. So my new personal rule of thumb, I'm real big on figuring out a personal rule of thumb so decisions get easier, and I have that filter to run it through. I've decided I can take on one big new project per quarter, which allows me the latitude to be able to do a car wash and a motel and lead GoBundance and all of the things, take on coaching clients, whatever those things are. I can only add a thing and get it set up to scale myself out of it largely one per quarter.
Yes.
Yeah.
I love that because my follow-up question was going to be like, how do you navigate that? And I love that there's this, hey, this is the bandwidth. And if I want to do this and I want to do this successfully, then this is the parameter going back to, like giving yourself some healthy boundaries, like just
Hmm.
building all of this in, keeping the promises to yourself. Gosh, I love that, Mandy.
That's absolutely it. I actually, so on my whiteboard that I look at when I work, I've been working to discriminate between, is this an idea I have for myself or is this a promise I'm making for myself? And if it's a promise, then a commitment has happened. And when I keep that promise, I do a hash line. And I'm watching, this is me building confidence in me that I will
Right.
show up for me. You know what I
Right.
mean? So
Yes.
can you delineate between when it is that promise and then kind of do a little reward thing of some sort? Because if I get
Mhm.
to 15 of those, I get a massage.
Oh yeah, girl. Yes, definitely. I'm on board with that one
Uh,
for sure. Oh, I
uh,
love that. What a great way of going about it as well. So fun. Mandy, I could just go on. I am like I always enjoy, talking with you and you've been a just such a wonderful influence, in my life, in other people's lives, just in how your level of ambition and authenticity and that ability to execute like you execute at the highest level possible. It's absolutely inspirational. And I love so much that you are leading the GoBundance Women, and that you're providing a place for other ambitious women to be able to come to this oasis and high five each other, because we know, we all know, and it happens with the gentleman also, but there is that jealousy factor that can happen. And it could be like, well, am I going to actually like their post, or am I going to actually like send them a note and congratulate my friend, or am I too jealous and to do that? And so to be around a group of women where it's running together is just powerful.
your growth is my growth. My
Mhm.
my goal as a connector, and the one thing I'm good at in life is connecting people into stuff, is that if you have a win, I have a win. And one thing that we said off camera that I want to make sure to say about being part of a women's group or somebody, like seeing people who look just like you doing stuff. One of the most
Mm.
annoying things about the human psyche is you don't believe that it can happen for you until you see it happen. It's the Roger
Mhm.
Bannister 4 minute mile thing, right?
Yeah.
And I would add to that, you don't believe it could happen for you until you see somebody like you doing that thing. So the big high fives, the congratulatory stuff, cool. I got another example in my back pocket that's going to matter to somebody at some point. And that is really what we're working to build as part of GoBundance.
Oh gosh, I love that. So as we're wrapping up, we're going to leave some information. Mandy's going to give it to you in just a second. But also remember that, gentlemen, there is a place for you also. I mean, like GoBundance was founded by men. And if you're hearing this, there's that tandem element. And that's something that you can look into as well. So I don't want to, leave you displaced at all. Like there's a place for everybody, right? We
Mm-hmm.
already talked about that. There's the men's side, the women's side, there's the fam side. Like everybody's covered here. Like there's a seat at the table for everybody. So Mandy, tell us, like, what's the best way for, the conscious investor to connect up with you, to learn more about what you're doing, to learn more about GoBundance Women and all things amazing, Mandy?
Yeah, thank you. So the best way to the catch all for all of the stuff that I'm into, my coaching, the abundant stuff is mandymcallister.com. It's gonna link you to all of the stuff and absolutely send me a message. Men, women, not quite yet millionaires, if you're interested in learning more, because I'd be thrilled to point you in the right direction.
And she will point you in the right direction. Mandy, I appreciate you. Thank you so much, for your friendship. Thank you for coming and, pouring into the conscious investor. once again. It's amazing and beautiful to just continue to watch you evolve. And I look forward to the continued expansion of both of us to see like
Yes.
where are we? Well, wow, look where we were then and look who we are now, what we're up to. How cool.
I feel like we have completely grown up together in this whole like game that we're playing, and it matters so much to me to see your continued success. So thank you for the chance to chat about this, to hopefully uh, provide something that's a little bit impactful to somebody, and to just be in the same room with you.
Gosh, I hugs to you, friend. And conscious investor, remember, you want to take action. You don't want to be complacent because here's what happens. If we choose to not to just stay in place, we're actually going backwards, okay? Because time is continuing on. And so if you're being complacent and you're procrastinating and you're not taking action, you're actually going backwards in everything in life. And so even if it's a small incremental step forward, or if it's a big step forward, it is better to be moving forward, to be taking action than it is to just, in theory, standing in place
Mhm.
because you're not. You're going backwards. Okay.
If you're
Close the
not
gap.
going, you're dying.
You are. And so close the gap between who you are now and the future that you see and envision that you long for. Okay. Also, make sure that you take time. Let us know what you think about this episode, especially over on Apple Podcasts. It directly affects the reach of the show and the types of guests who want to come on the show. In fact, when you leave reviews, and that means you have to go to the main show page on Apple. You have to scroll down to the bottom, and in little tiny purple words, it says write a review, right? When you choose to do that, it allows other people, guests, to say, oh, wow, this is an active, the conscious investor, they have like a great listenership. And so you speaking up allows every one of us to experience just an amazing menagerie of guests. Okay. And so I want to encourage you to take that 30, 60 seconds to go to Apple Podcasts, scroll on down to leave a review, an honest one. And just let us know. It can be honest, even if you are like, this sucks, I don't like it. Let us know. Either way. Okay. Because you get to be you and we appreciate you. Until next time, cheers to your health, your mindset, and your wealth.